Hey, what's up, bros, and welcome to the famous Bolsa Chica wetlands here in Orange County, Southern California. So this is kind of a special place for me because I did grow up in the city, and grow up in the city. There's nature around, but ain't too much nature, at least not the nature that you like to see on TV, like on the Discovery Channel and all that. But basically what I'm trying to say is I had to try a little bit harder to go see nature, and what I mean by trying harder is I had to travel like longer distances in order to get a piece of something natural. And Bolsa Chica wasn't too far from where I was living, so it was a good spot to, kind of hop, skip, and a jump away from the house to come get exposed to some nature. Actually, a good deal of nature, and hopefully we'll get some examples of that as we biologize here today. But anyway, a little bit of history about this place. You can see in the background there's some oil rigs and everything like that. I guess the history started like around 1899. Some, rich people bought up this area to create their little gun club, their little duck hunting club and everything. And then they found oil. So some oil companies was like, hey man, we want to drill on your gun club land. So they brokered a deal so, they get 50-50 shares of the profits from the oil, and the rich people can still use their lands to go hunt ducks. Then in the 1960s, government was trying to build some new houses, and this was before they had any major environmental regulations in California, but it was kind of in the pre-stages of getting to that way. So they did their like environmental impact reports, and the government kind of decided, nah man, you can't build on these wetlands here. If you're going to build some new houses, you got to restrict it to the upper parts, like the more upland sections of the area. And that's why we have these rich people homes right here up on the upland sections. And they also decided to dedicate all that wet area out there as an ecological reserve, in which it is today. Now I find this spot to be a really good spot to go see some nature, particularly if you're into birds. Like this is a very, very, very good birding spot, especially right now during these times, during the winter times and everything. California, Southern California is known to have the highest diversity of birds, I think, in North America. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So now you can see that this is a really popular area for people to, run, jog, just take a walk and do what I'm doing, biologizing, I guess. Before we head down into the wetlands over there, we're gonna talk about some of the vegetation that can be found around here, particularly upland vegetation. So we're gonna start upland and head down into the wetland. Check out this ecotone. Okay, first one up is this cactus right here, Cactaceae. This is Opuntia littoralis. This is the classic prickly pear cactus that can be found all along the coastal California. This is where you get the delicious prickly pear fruit from, and you can see that it is starting to bloom right now here in the late winter. And there you can see that lovely cactus flower right there with all those hundreds of anthers surrounding that pistil, waiting for some sort of insect, particularly, probably like a bee, a fly, even a beetle, to kind of like run around there, run through those anthers, get those pollens attached to it, and then it'll run, fly, crawl off to another flower, pollinate that one, and begin the process of creating a fruit. And you can see with this stand of cactus, you have different flowers and different fruits in their different stages of development. You can see the fruits forming there. There you can see that Opuntia way over there. That's what one of those prickly pear fruits looks like. And yes, they are delicious. And you can see right behind it, we actually have one of my personal favorite cacti. This is Cylindropuntia prolifera, aka the coast cholla. Notice how in front this is Opuntia, and then the cholla is Cylindropuntia, because the nodes or the stems are more cylinder-like as opposed to flat-like. Cacti in the genus Cylindropuntia are one of the sharpest things on the planet, I'm telling you. This one's not as sharp as the teddy bear cholla, but I guarantee if you rub up against it, it's not gonna feel good. But yeah, this is actually an important plant in coastal sagebrush communities. Birds, particularly the cactus wren, like to make nests in this stuff. And it makes sense because those spines, would protect anything from, raiding your nest. Okay, now moving on to the dominant vegetation, we have this right here. This is Artemisia californica. I've talked about this many times in the past, also known as California sagebrush. Asteraceae family, so it's in a family of daisies and sunflowers and everything. And in coastal sagebrush communities where this is the dominant, it actually provides critical habitat for a federally endangered bird known as the California gnatcatcher, because they like to nest in this stuff. It smells divine, like absolutely divine. And then right next to it, we have a flowering individual of this plant right here. This is Cleomella arborea in the Cleomaceae family, or the bladderpod family. And the reason they call them bladderpods is because when their flowers have been fertilized and done developing, they create these bladder-like seed pods here. And unlike this Artemisia right here, which smells really good, these ones usually have Yeah, pretty bitter smell, pretty bitter smell. I actually have this growing in my backyard too, and it might not look like it because it's surrounded by all this Artemisia, but this is a very aggressive plant. And I'm pretty sure that ecology-wise that this plant is kind of kept in check by the surrounding vegetation. Because if this was just left here all alone, it would just like spread out, dominate. It likes to like push other plants out and everything like that. But you know, a bully in a sea of bullies isn't much bully-like, I guess. Yeah, Cleomella, the bladder pod. Pretty flowers too. And then moving on to somewhat of the taller shrubs here, we got this. This is Baccharis pilularis, also in the Asteraceae family. Doesn't appear to be flowering right now, although you can see some of the spent flowers from last season right there. That's how you know it's in the Asteraceae family. See those old filaries right there? It's a very common plant in coastal California, in chaparral areas and coastal sagebrush communities. And it comes in a couple of different varieties. There's a prostrate form. I think this is the OG form. But yeah, it's pretty much perfectly adapted to California's coastal climate. California tends to get a lot of fog, and this plant can actually extract water straight from the fog, which is an excellent adaptation if you're a plant living in this type of climate. And then right next to it, we have another medium-sized shrub. This is Atriplex lentiformis in the Amaranthaceae family, or the saltbush family. A family that is well adapted for salty conditions and salty soils, especially alkali soils. And it makes sense because we are here on the fringes of a coastal salt marsh. And then we got some more flowering plants right here. This is Calistegia, but it's in the Convolvulaceae, which is the family of morning glories. But yeah, you can see right here, it's a vine. And this is also another highly aggressive growing plant. It tends to at least seemingly choke out some of the surrounding shrubs and other plants that might be in its way and everything like that. I mean, you can see on whatever plant this is right here, I'm not exactly sure what this used to be, but you know, it looks almost completely dead right now. So now it's just acting as a scaffolding to hold this Calistegia up, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of cool. It kind of makes you think, like, you know, you look at this place where you see all these nice plants and animals, looks all beautiful and like, you know, kind of harmony and everything like that. But when you realize a lot about the biology, you see that it's kind of a war zone. Everything's competing with each other. Everything's, you know, trying to outgrow, push each other out the way, take advantage of whatever resources and everything that's here, whether it be sunlight, space, soil quality, etc. It's a war zone out there, everybody. All right, now getting into some of the more unique vegetation that can be found here at Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve. This is Lycium californicum in the Solanaceae, which is the same family as deadly nightshade, potatoes, tomatoes, and eggplants. And this is a plant that is in high abundance here in the upland parts of the salt marsh, and it can also be found down into the salt marsh too. But this is a plant that you're more likely to see here in this area as opposed to, you know, like up in the hills, up in the mountains. And highly adapted for, you know, salt spray conditions and everything like that. Oh, and it seems like we have a fruit forming right there. See that fruit? Classic Solanaceae fruit, kind of berry-like fruit. Sort of looks like a tomato, right? But yeah, Solanaceae, nightshade family. Go and learn something. And of course, living in today's Anthropocene, you're gonna run into some introduced vegetation, introduced / invasive, especially here in the understory. Right in front of you, we have Medicago polymorpha, AKA like your standard clover. Family Fabaceae, so the family of peas and legumes. Introduced from Europe, I believe. And then right next to it, we have this. This is a Rhodium sicutarum. I think it's sicutarum. Kind of nice show. That's an incomplete flower. Here's a better flower right there. So yeah, 5-petal flower. They make these crazy seed pods, and these seeds that, based on the levels of humidity throughout the day, will actually corkscrew themselves down into the soil. And then a common invasive grass species is this right here. This is Bromus madritensis, foxtail brome. This is the same species. If you're ever running through a field of grass, this is probably going to do the whole epizoochry thing and, you know, stick into your clothes and in hopes that it'll be transported somewhere else where it can grow and proliferate. Oh, and then look what we got right here. Ah. So this is why it's important to look closer at things. You know, I was looking at this vegetation and I was like, hey, the texture of the soil looks a little weird. And I look closer and then we got this right here. This right here is actually a fungus in the genus Cyathus, and it's a basidiomycete, which means it's in the same fungal division as, you know, your classic, you know, cap-shaped mushrooms and everything like that. But the common name of this is called the bird's nest fungus, and you could probably see why it's called the bird's nest fungus, because those little you know, kind of like hockey puck / coin shaped things that are in that cup, those are actually a structure called peridioles, and that's what holds the spores. And this particular species, Cyathus, requires raindrops to fall into these cups and basically bounce those peridioles out so they can spread their spores even further. It's a saprobic fungus, meaning that it likes to eat dead things and everything, as opposed to rhizomatic fungus, which actually creates a symbiosis between plant roots, and you know, they have this little exchange system where they exchange sugars for nitrogen and everything like that. These are saprobic, so they're eating dead things, probably dead things in the soil, you know, animal shit, stuff like that. Okay, that little bird right there, that is Melaspezia melodia, aka the song sparrow, and that's why it's called the song sparrow right there. I guess ornithologists, early ornithologists, thought that it had a very pretty song. And low-key, I kind of agree. Family Passarellidae, which is the family of New World sparrows. There's New World sparrows and Old World sparrows. This is part of the New World because it's native here, but a very common songbird found throughout North America. And the one you are looking at right now is our Southern California species. Yeah, Melaspezia melodia. And then right there we have Melzoni chrysalis, the California towhee, family Passarellidae, New World sparrows family. New World as opposed to Old World. And then right there we got Homoris mexicanus in the Fringillidae family. Common name is the house finch. There it goes doing its singing thing. Seems like all the birds out here, at least all the males, are, you know, singing to try to find a mate, establish territory. Nesting bird season is only about like 3 weeks away. But yeah, house finch is a very common bird, as you can imagine, around houses. You know, this is a native bird kind of sharing its territories with introduced house sparrows from Europe. And you can see that nice kind of like powder puff red plumage that it has on its head and parts of its back and its underparts. They don't just come in red too. There's yellow forms also. But yeah, classic bird. If you live in Southern California, you're probably gonna see this one every day. All right, okay, I think I'm done with this upland section. Let's head down into the marsh now. Okay, and right here, trail side, we have a very famous coastal California plant. This is Encelia californica, aka the California coast sunflower, family Asteraceae, and you can see that it perfectly exemplifies Asteraceae, or, you know, it's got that nice daisy type flower. And this is a good flower to talk about when it's blooming. If you're going to talk about Asteraceae to people, you see that Asteraceans have these surrounding ray flowers. And then in the middle, they have these disc flowers, so it's a composite. This one flower is actually composed of these hundreds of little flowers. So when a potential pollinator comes by to get the nectar from this flower, it's going to potentially pollinate hundreds of flowers as opposed to like single flowers. And then you can see the individual disc flowers right there that are about to pop open. And of course, it's an Asteraceae, so it's got these phyllories. And these are pretty distinct phyllories. You can see it is still drilling oil out here. So this whole area is basically a compromise between a handful of stakeholder entities. One of those entities being the public, obviously, because this is a good spot for people to come out here, take a walk, do some birding, do some running. As you can see around me, we're kind of on these like berm embankments here that cuts right through the middle of this salt marsh. And it is a salt marsh, so it has heavy influence from the Pacific Ocean and very little influence from freshwater inputs, whether it be from, you know, whatever creeks are left out here, and you know, surface runoff from the streets and everything like that. But anyway, over here on this side, we have a good assemblage of anatids, that is birds within the Anatidae family, and we're gonna take a look at some right now. Okay, along the banks, mixed in with the trash, we have a bunch of Anis acuta, aka the northern pintail duck. To me, this is one of the more showier ducks. One of the more fashionable ones, I guess I should say. That's the male right there. I think that's the female. Yeah, Anis acuta. Acuta, obviously because of the shape of its tail feathers right there. we go, Marica americana, aka the American widgeon. There's the male right there with that yellow cream color on the top of his crown. I believe that's the female right there. Females are always a little more drab. They make kind of a funny, distinct sound. They sound like you're rubbing your fingernails on some Gore-Tex or something. Also another prized duck species for hunting. Oh, and then mixed in we got those. That's Marica creca, aka the green-winged teal. That's the male right there with that kind of green band going across his eyes. And where'd the female go? Oh, the female's right here. That's the female. And you can see the green wing, that little tinge of green right there underneath its wings, hence the name green-winged teal. And if you're a duck hunter watching this video, you're going to get your rocks off today, I'm going to tell you what. Yeah, so all these duck species that I talked about, they're all species that are known to be found in coastal saltmarsh areas like Bolsa Chica. Okay, so right there we have Phoca americana, the rallidae, or the family of rails. Common name is the American coot. Some people like to call them gutter chickens. Supposedly they don't taste that good. That's why not a lot of hunters like to hunt them. I mean, I don't know. But you can see a lot of these get mistaken for ducks, but they're not ducks. And they have a different pattern to the foot. They don't have like the web footing that ducks have. They actually have like lobed toes that act as paddles instead of webbed feet. But you can see it's doing its coot thing. That's what it does. That's what it does. That's what it eats. It eats, you know, floating vegetation, maybe some invertebrates along with that vegetation. Usually found in large flocks or large groups too. I don't know if you can see through the water, those lobes. Yeah, you can kind of see those lobe feet. They're not webbed, they're lobed. Oh, and then we got something who caught something. That is Mergus serrator, the red-breasted merganser, also in the family Anatidae, so it's a duck. And as you can see from its behavior right there, it's a pursuit diver. So it dives underwater and chases after its prey. And that one appears to be the female. Okay, that one right there in the middle, preening its feathers, that's the male red-breasted merganser, and you can kind of see why they call him red-breasted merganser. I guess that reddish chestnut pattern isn't quite on the breast, it's just like on the lower neck. And then we got a small group of Bucephalus albeola, known as the bufflehead. Those ones with the large white patches on their head, those are the males. The ones without it, those are the females. Also in the Anatidae family of ducks and geese. And they're hearing me talk and getting skittish and swimming off, because that's what happens. Oh, there we go. You got Tringa semipalmata, aka the willet, sandpiper type bird in the Cylindropuntia, trying to hide from me. Let's see, this is the problem with filming birds, man. Like when they hear you talk, they try to run away. I guess this one's not too bothered by me. Yeah, medium-sized sandpiper bird, typically found in salt marshes, wetlands, and even along rocky coasts too. Oh, and you wouldn't be in a wetland if you didn't see one of these. Here we got the infamous Ardea herodias, aka the great blue heron, Pelicaniformes in the family Ardeidae, which is the family of herons and egrets. This one seems like it's just chilling here, probably waiting for the tide to go out so it can take advantage of all the little bait fish and, you know, little juvenile fish that can be found in this estuarine area. Yeah, Ardeidae with that 6th and 7th cervical vertebrae, which have the morphology of a kink, which allows them to cock back their neck and spring it forward to stab whatever they're trying to eat. So wetland systems, particularly coastal salt marshes, are known to be some of the most productive ecosystems in the world. I mean, I guess to the untrained eye, it might not look like it because, you know, a lot of people think that productive ecosystems involve trees, but that's really not the case. I mean, you got salt water from the Pacific Ocean just beyond that way, mixing in essentially with what little fresh water that's being input here by, you know, whatever stream systems or you know, urban runoff. You know, it creates these specific conditions to which certain biological acts can form. You know, feeding, browsing around for food, foraging, hunting, and everything like that. But also the microbial communities that are found in this type of ecosystem. You know, that microbial community will then set the tone for the plant community, and the plant community sets the tone for the animals, and so on and so on. Not to mention, since this is a wetland area, you don't just have terrestrial animals, i.e. the birds and everything here. You have fish that also come through, fish and a cornucopia of invertebrates as well. So yeah, coastal salt marshes, very, very productive ecosystem. And this one we're standing in today is one of the few that are left. I think there's only about 8% of coastal salt marsh left in all of California. So, you know, enjoy it while it lasts. Okay, we got another Ardeid right here. This is Ardea alba, also known as the great egret. And you can see it has its neck like sticking straight up, probably looking at me yapping. But you can see how it has that little curve right there. And that's where that 6th and 7th cervical vertebrae are that give it that little kink. And that little kink has muscles attached to it, which allow it to cock back its neck and throw its head forward so it can use that spear-shaped beak to spear whatever it's trying to eat. There we go. That's an even better shot of it right there. And you can see that little kink right there, just below the head. It's hunting right now, see if it has something in its side. No, it doesn't. Okay. Yeah, Ardea alba, great egret. Okay, we got a good, nice group of Branta bernicla, aka the brant, also in Anseriform, also in the family Anatidae, ducks and geese. And these are a bird that you're pretty much only going to see here during the winter. They migrate down south. They can be found all across the northern hemisphere, you know, parts of Europe, Russia, Canada, etc. That's where they breed in the summer, but during the winter, they come down here to these more milder climates, and they hang out and feed and take advantage of the high production that this coastal salt marsh offers. Yeah, Branta bernicla. Oh, we got Melanita perspicillata, otherwise known as the surf scoter, also an Anseriform, also in the family Anatidae, ducks and geese. But this is a more marine duck, yeah, and we've seen it here in this salt marsh, in this estuary. And they are typically found in estuarian systems and everything like that. But I want to say this duck is associated with marine environments. Okay, we got these two just chilling over here. This is Podolimbus podiceps, the pied-billed grebe. It's in the family Podicipedidae, which is the family of grebes, and there's a few grebe species out here today. But this is a common one that can be found in estuaries. They can also be found in freshwater systems too. Another pursuit diver. And unlike a lot of other grebe species that have a nice long pointy, you know, dagger-like bill, these guys' bills is a little short and stout. Grebes also don't have webbed feet. They have those lobe feet, just like those coots too. Coming over to this nice little boardwalk area that was built so you can walk across and transverse this wetland spot. And you can kind of see a good example of the lowland vegetation that makes up the majority of this salt marsh. And there's two species in particular that are here. And the first one is this is Salicornia pacifica, otherwise known as pickleweed, in the Amaranthaceae family, which is no surprise because many Amaranthaceans are salt tolerant and even salt loving. And then the second one is this grass species kind of intermixed within the matrix of this pickleweed, and I believe that is Spartina foliosa species it is, and along with the Salicornia, they both provide very important emergent canopy structure, emergent canopy refugia and habitat for many different species of animal. I mean, it provides foraging habitat for, you know, certain birds. You know, you got those egrets and stuff like that that'll be walking through here and foraging for little fish. And because of this emergent canopy, it provides that protection for such little fish and other invertebrates and stuff like that. Oh, I also forgot to mention that salt marshes act as a type of a nursery habitat for many important sport and commercially fished fish species. You know, for example, the California halibut, Paralictes californica, they'll come into these areas to spawn, and their juveniles use these types of habitats, this salt marsh habitat, to basically grow up. And once they get big enough, they'll head out into the open ocean where they're a big dog top predator and everything. But out here, they can remain safe. See, people come here to bird just like me. But right next to that guy, we have another introduced species. I'm pretty sure y'all are familiar with this. This is Columba livia, aka the European rock dove. The pigeon is another name for it. And apparently some people like to call these feathered rats. Brought over here during the early days of colonization, used as a food source, and from what I hear, Europeans think that these taste delicious. I don't know if you want to eat one of these though. Okay, right off the walkway right here, we got another podicipedid, another pursuit diver. This right here is the eared grebe. In its winter plumage, has a much different plumage pattern in the summer and the spring months. But again, another pursuit diver out here searching for little bait fish to find. Oh, we got a special one right here. This is, oh, and it flew away. Oh, we got one. It is in the same family as herons and egrets, Ardeidae. Okay, there we have Calidris minutella, also known as the least sandpiper. I think this is the smallest sandpiper. Yeah, I think this is the smallest sandpipers out of all the sandpipers in the genus Calidra. Just doing its sandpiper thing, browsing around along this embankment, amongst the rocks, sediment, and trash. And Calidris minutella, least sandpiper. Okay, over here near the roadside, that's Pacific Coast Highway, by the way. I'm seeing some pretty special birds. What you see right there is Nyctinassa violacea, better known as the yellow-crowned night heron. And there's a lot of them all right here in this one spot. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them right here. Yeah, so Ardeidae, so the same family as that great egret and the great blue heron. Pelecaniformes, so somewhat closely related to pelicans and everything. And again, it has that 6 and 7 cervical vertebrae with that kink that allows it to spear fish. If you notice that the bill on this species is a little bit more stout, a little bit more thick, as opposed to the bills that can be found on its cousin species out here. And it's using that vertebrae to get its head closer to its body because undoubtedly it's pretty cold, so it can extract the heat from its core body temperature. Because it is winter out here in California, and it is pretty chilly, at least for California standards. Yeah, Nyctinassa violacea, the yellow-crowned night heron, out here in the Bolsa Chica wetlands. How about that? Then we got Pelecanus occidentalis. He just dove in the water. It looks like he got a fish. Brown pelican. One of 2 pelican species that can be found here on the west coast of the US, specifically California. Pelecaniformes. Let's see. Oh, it just dove again. Okay, I'm gonna try to sneak up on these right here because they're pretty close. Hopefully I don't spook them. Oh, they noticed me. They noticed me. All right, here we go. We got Pelecanus erythrorhynchos, otherwise known as the white pelican. This pelican can be found in a lot of freshwater aquatic ecosystems, actually. I don't really see too many of these in purely marine, but you know, obviously they're out here feeding in the brackish waters. They're also a plunge diver. Sometimes they have this like growth that comes off the top bill. I think the hormones that are produced during the breeding season gives it that structure. Yeah, white pelican. Yeah, Egretta rufescens. Out here at the Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve. There's a little bit of a better shot right here. Yeah, Nyctinassa and Egretta out here. 2 uncommon species out here in the Bolsa Chica wetlands. That's freaking dope. Another common wetland bird. This is Egretta tula, found all across North America, aka the snowy egret. And it seems to be joining this Ardea Herodias in attempts to find some fish that are coming out of this spillway right here. Yeah, this little spillway culvert is like one of the few areas where ocean water can go in and out of this wetland ecosystem. Okay, right here we got a feeding group of Limnodromus scolopaceus, the long-billed dowitcher. I believe this is the long-billed dowitcher. Charadriiformes, sandpiper family, and you can see them just piping away right there. Their bill is actually not really stout. It's actually very, very bendy. Like they can bend the tip. And it's bendy enough that when they're flying, you could actually see it curve in the air when they're flying. Yeah, that bill allows them to do some special things that not all sandpipers can do. Basically, it allows for them to probe the mud and open the bill only at the tip, essentially. So if they find something while they're foraging, they don't have to open their mouth all the way. They can just open the tip of it, grab whatever they're trying to grab, and then yank it out and eat it. Yeah, so when they stick their bill in the ground, all they got to do to grab something is just do that instead of doing that. Oh, we got another teal right here, Spatula discourse, blue-winged teal. That's the male right there. I think that was a female. Yeah, these are actually in the same genus as another duck known as the shoveler. So then the genus Spatula, which is a distinct genus of ducks. And I think the spatula refers mostly to the shape of their bill. And these can be found in fresh and brackish water. Oh, right there. I haven't seen this one in a long time. This is Spatula cyanoptera, aka the cinnamon teal. And it looks like there's this female right there. Again, another duck in the genus Spatula because it's got that distinct, almost like spatula-shaped bill. Yeah, it was a long time since I've seen these. Cinnamon teal, yay. Okay, I know this isn't a very good shot, but you see those black and white birds right there with that very noticeable recurved bill? Those are in the family Recurvorostridae, which makes sense. And it's in the, I think it's in the genus Recurvorostra. Common name of these is the American avocet, and they're actually in their winter colors right now. They actually have way more colorful colors during the breeding season. And they obviously use that bill in order to target certain invertebrate species or other food sources that they may find subsurface of the water. Ooh. So hanging out with the Greta, we got Plagatus chihi, the white-faced ibis. It's another migratory bird out here, mostly seen out in California during the winter months. Hey, get out of the way, Greta. I wonder if that egret is trying to be opportunistic. Seems like that ibis bill is pretty good at reaching underneath those small boulders to grab any, likely an invertebrate. And I'll bet that egret is trying to take advantage of anything that it doesn't get. Taking up after the scraps, basically. Oh, Spatula clypeata, the northern shoveler. We saw two of their relatives earlier, blue-winged teal and the cinnamon teal. It's like 3 males and 2 females. Usually I only see these in freshwater areas. This section where I'm at right now might be more fresh than salt. Yeah, northern shoveler. Yet another duck that hunters like to shoot. Okay, this is an interesting duck that I typically see in a lot of salt marsh estuarine systems. This is Oxyura jamaicensis, aka the ruddy duck. You can easily tell what these species are without binoculars because of that stout tail. It's pretty stiff and kind of sits angled in the air. That tail is also used in mating displays. Again, just like a lot of the other birds out here, they are not in their breeding plumage right now. This is in their winter plumage. I cannot tell the difference whether this is a male or a female. I just read that they're invasive in Great Britain. They're actually overtaking their local species of duck. And I think the native species of duck in Great Britain is also in the genus Oxyura because these can hybridize with them. So there's concern of them exportating the population of those ducks out there. And I think I'm not too sure, I think that these are one of the basal lineages of duck, Oxyura. This is like one of the oldest ducks out there, I think. Oldest duck within the Anatidae, I should say. Yeah, ruddy duck. So I guess that's my time here at the Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve. The Bolsa Chica Saltmarsh wetlands here in lovely Southern California. There's a lot to see out here, for real, for real. I mean, all the stuff that I showed you so far, that's not even half of the bird species that can be recorded out here. Like, I didn't even touch up on any of the raptors or any of the smaller sandpiper species and stuff. But what I'm trying to say is it's a good place to go, especially if you're into birds. You're gonna see a lot of bird species out here, for real, for real. So if you're interested in birding, and I know that not that many people are, you know, at least until they reach the age of like 50. I mean, if you're interested in birding, if you're interested in looking at wildlife, if you're interested in looking at an ecosystem that has been battled back and forth between private, public entities to keep this place the way it is right now, you know, come out here. It's free. It's free to park in any of the parking lots that are around the perimeter of this place, unless you want to pay like $30 to get some beach access over there at Bolsa Chica State Beach. So yeah, if you're into this type of stuff, you know, grab your binoculars and your bird guide, your bird identification app and whatever, and you know, have some fun. Have a field day out here, literally. You might even see a couple of endangered species, really though. And hey, if you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you watching. Thank you, thank you. I'll still continue to come out with more videos. And just remember to keep your decisions scientific. Stay away from all the gimmicks. I'm Ichabod Slice. Peace up, peace out, learn something.